You are listening to Comedy Club for Kids presents Radio Nonsense, Radio Nonsense, Radio Nonsense, Radio Nonsense, Radio Nonsense. Sorry, hello listeners. Sorry, hang on, look, I know this is very unprofessional of me, but I just have to eat while recording this week's podcast because I saw a big poster that said, you must eat 5 a day, but it didn't say of what. 5 what should I eat a day? It just said eat 5 a day, but it said it was important for my health to eat that many, 5 things. So I've been trying to eat 5 a day I'm trying different items every day to see which makes me feel better. And today, I have to get through 5 watermelons, and it is really hard work. I love watermelons, but it's really tricky biting into them like an apple, and they're so big that I'd usually only have like a bit of a watermelon, like a slice, but I've got through 2 whole ones so far, and I'm now on my 3rd. Hang on. Yeah, so I won't lie, I don't feel great, but maybe you only feel great once you've eaten 5 of them. Maybe that's what the poster meant. Right, that is number 3 done. Right, I'll give it a minute and then I'll start on number 4. Oof, I am very full of watermelon now. 5 watermelons is tough, but yesterday was 5 pillows, and that was really hard. And I'd say that didn't make me feel better, so it's definitely not eat 5 pillows a day. The day before that was 5 chocolate buttons, and that did make me feel pretty good, so maybe I should have stopped there. And then I'm very worried about tomorrow, as next on my list to try is 5 light aircraft carriers, and I'm not really sure how I'm going to do that, and I'm not really sure how that can be good for my health, but anyway, and then after that, it's 5 casseroles I've got to try, then 5 retail parks, 5 terracotta bullnose bathroom tiles, 5 important documents, 5 of Henry's favourite crisps, 5 Eiffel Towers. I mean, there's only one of those, isn't there? So how am I even going to find 4 more, let alone eat them? And then 5 pickled gherkins, which is a lot easier than Eiffel Towers. And anyway, that's just page 1. I've got like 300 pages of this. I don't really have time to eat all these things, and I wish that poster had had more information on it, because actually it just feels like a lot of work eating 5 of absolutely everything until you find out what's healthy for you. Well, before I get started on watermelon number 4, or Fortermelon, as I like to say, I'm so full. Welcome to Radio Nonsense, the official comedy club for kids podcast for all ages, from 5 red scooters to 5 1 terabyte internal hard drives and everything in between. Sorry, I was just reading the top of page 2 of my list. Thanks to Moo Moo W, who I assume is a cow, but then why would a cow call themselves Moo Moo? Or maybe they said their name, but the person typing out the name didn't speak cow, so they thought they just said Moo Moo, but that actually said something like Clarence Buttercup the 43rd. But I mean, it's very likely, isn't it? Not many people speak cow. It's sort of a lost language now, so it's very sad. Well, thanks anyway to you, Moo Moo W, for the brilliant review, and to Asmasha Bash for the lovely review and the questions, which will be answered on a future show. And thanks this week also to Aoife for this amazing joke, right? Are you ready? Are you ready for this amazing joke? You're not? Okay, all right, go on, have a wee first. Yeah, look, I'll wait. Don't forget to wash your hands. You back? Great. Okay, so here is Aoife's amazing joke. What do you get when you cross a crocodile and a frog? Are you ready? A crocodile! Yes! Amazing work, Aoife. That is very, very funny. And again, I know you shouldn't look into these jokes too much because it's just some brilliant wordplay, but I think a crocodile is actually a better, if that's what you got when you crossed a crocodile and a frog, that is better than, say, a jumping crocodile with giant frog's legs, because that would be really scary, just sort of bouncing around the swamp, snap, snap, snap. Oh, that would be terrifying. Whereas if it's just a crocodile, that is fine. Oh, that watermelon is looking at me, that 4th one. Maybe I shouldn't have put googly eyes on it, but it doesn't really help. Anyway, if you want to review the show, you can do that on Apple Podcasts or wherever podcasts live. I don't know, Pod in Montenegro maybe, or Poddington in Wellingborough. Actually, maybe don't go to those places and write your review on a wall. It might make people quite angry. So maybe stick to Apple Podcasts or podcast websites. And of course, if you want to send in any jokes, thoughts, or especially questions you want to be answered, then make sure you get your blathering ninny hammers, I'm sorry, grown-ups, to help you email us at podcast@comedyclub4kids.co.uk. I don't think I have to eat 5 emails for a while, so they'll all be quite safe for now until I get to at least page 7. And don't forget, on last week's show, we started a competition, though I'm afraid it is just for UK listeners only. But if you are in the UK and you would like to win a 6-month subscription to Britannica magazine, which is a really fun kids magazine full of facts, like there was one the other day, your chances of going to hospital with a pogo stick related injury are 1 in 115,000. Wow, that sounds painful, but I bet on the way there you'd have a spring in your step, eh? It's also full of quizzes, puzzles, recipes, and all sorts of stuff. It is absolutely brilliant. And we've got 3 subscriptions to give away on this Radio Nonsense podcast. And all you have to do, which some of you already have, thank you, is email us with your favourite weird or funny facts. Do that before June the 30th, and I'll pick my favourite ones as winners. Oh no, what if I have to eat 5 facts? And hang on. No, that's okay. That's on page 436. It should be after the competition has ended. That should be fine. The other big bit of news is if you or your grown-ups have checked out the Comedy Club for Kids store in recent weeks, it's probably been very expensive because I clicked all of the wrong buttons and it seemed to mean that the shipping, no matter where you were in the world, was very expensive. I don't know what they were shipping it in, maybe a super yacht, maybe a spaceship. It was whatever was the most expensive way to ship something. I don't really understand how you ship things. Anyway, I should have made it all okay now, and there are UK versions if you're ordering in the UK, there are US versions if you're ordering in the US, and if you're ordering anywhere else in the world, I think it still may come by super yacht, but do have a look. It might be a raft, it might be just an ant on a leaf, I don't know, but I really shouldn't be allowed to run a shop, but hopefully now all the t-shirts, Stinky Hippos t-shirts, Linda t-shirts, Radio Nonsense t-shirts should all be now a little bit more affordable. Anyway, do please check comedyclubforkids.store with a grown-up and then whine and whinge at them till they buy you one of our amazing t-shirts. I've now also put some grown-up sizes on there too, so they can get one as well and stop crying about it. Okay, it is now time for the most important bit, which is me starting on, oh dear, watermelon number 4. And while I do that, no, you listen to this. Joining me on the show this week is the brilliant Matt Kirshen, also known as Matt, Grandmaster of the Gentle Head Pat. Matt Kirshen, renowned whisk tamer, and of course, as he's known in Samoa, le famalosi itusi akusi. But of course, all of our listeners, Matt, will know you as the world's only ghost dentist, the inventor of the silent tambourine, and most famously, you are the 8 times international gold medal winner at Thumb Wars. And look, it's a pleasure to have you here. How are you?
I'm so good, and I'm really glad you mentioned all of that because it took a lot of failed head pats before I really got to that level. I squashed a lot of friends.
Wow.
And it's the trouble. You know me, I don't know my own strength, and
yes.
So the first few times, I was driving people into the ground like a tent peg, and.
It's so hard because with all these things, like when you sort of get like expert skateboarders, you just see them doing the flips and the tricks, but you never see the bits where they're falling over and breaking their knees. And we all know you as, the person who pats on the head the best. Like around the world, it's like, there are videos people queue up for a head pat for miles, but we didn't know that.
They do, and it's so gentle and it's so comforting these days, but just know that, a lot of people don't have necks now.
Oh,
it's just like a lot of my friends and family, just to get to that point, you'll see them now and you'll be like, why does that person just have like a head sort of coming out of the top of their chest? And be like, oh, well, Matt went a bit too heavy.
That is awkward. And you sort of ruined, they can't wear ties or scarves.
They can't. Well, they can wear ties as like bandanas. They can wear them around the top of their head. Well, actually, that's not 100% true. A few of the early attempts, I pushed down so hard that the top of their head is actually below the level of their shoulders. So they can't even wear a tie like a bandana.
Right.
They can't. They could just sort of loosely drape it over their shoulders.
That's hard because also, I guess then they can't eat very well. Or is the mouth still... Can they still eat? Or do they have to sort of tip food into their kind of like shoulders?
Actually... bizarrely, they can eat very well because their mouth is right next to their stomach.
Oh, sure. Oh, actually, that's quite that doesn't sound. You've made it sound a lot better now, I think.
So that does alleviate some of the guilt that I feel, because I'm quite a slow eater, but they are now extraordinarily fast. I mean, some people have won eating competitions. I don't know if you've seen eating competitions, but not for speed so much as style.
Oh, right.
They really win the style points because they can just get a hot dog straight in their stomach in one move.
Yeah, and I assume also because if they put like a hat on the top of their head, it looks like they haven't got a head at all, but they're still eating, and that's like a sort of ghost is eating or something, isn't it? It's something quite exciting.
Yeah, and speaking, I've had a bit of ghost trouble recently because, like you did say, I am a ghost dentist, but here's where I've run into trouble. The advertising stage of this, what's happened is a lot of people have assumed that I am a dentist who is a ghost.
Yes, I did. I was going to ask about that because the title Ghost Dentist does make you think that that's the way round it's going to be. Yeah.
No, yeah. Is it a regular person dentist who is a ghost, or is it a regular person dentist? For ghosts.
Yeah.
Am I a living person who is a dentist for ghosts? Or am I a ghost who is a dentist for living people?
Yeah, we see. I knew which one it was because I know you're not a ghost. I mean, I assume you're not.
Right.
You haven't become a ghost since last time I spoke to you, but I know you're not a ghost. So
unless maybe you're the only person who can see me, and we'll find out when the emails start to come through for this episode, and you'll be like, "Why is Tiernan just talking to himself?"
Yes, yeah,
for the whole show.
That would be weird, wouldn't it?
There wasn't anyone else.
Yeah, I mean, I'd also be very impressed that as a ghost, you've sort of set up the recording link, like you've done if you are a ghost, you've done very well as a ghost so far. You're managing to sort of use items, and a lot of ghosts would just struggle with that. So
they would, yeah, because it's very hard to press button on a recording, what with your hand going through it. Which is, I think, one of the reasons I'm a dentist who works on ghosts.
Yes.
So I have had a lot of trouble with what I've had is living people showing up and being like, I'm here for the ghost dentist.
Right.
And then I walk into the room by opening the door, and they're instantly disappointed.
That's awful.
They're instantly like, why didn't you just sail through the wall like we were expecting? And I'll have to be like, there's been a mix-up here.
Yeah.
There's been a huge misunderstanding.
But also, like you said, there's a big problem in that you wouldn't be able to fix a lot of teeth problems because you would just go through their teeth. Like, you wouldn't be able to hold the tools. I mean...
Yeah, so a lot of being a dentist... Yeah, a lot of being a dentist for ghosts is really having to explain to them that their teeth now are the teeth that they died with. Because that is very much the thing about a ghost, is however you died, that's how you're stuck.
Yeah.
But
am I right?
What I really
because I thought, from sort of reading some of your articles in Ghost Dentist Monthly. I mean, you are the only person that contributes the articles, but they're always very fascinating. But
I am, and also the only person who buys that magazine on the regular. So thank you for being our second subscriber. I really appreciate that.
I just read a few of the free articles. I'm afraid I haven't hit the subscribe. I'm sorry.
Okay, well, I'll still get the advertising.
Yeah, I hope so.
I mean, I am also the only advertiser, but
but at least there's something.
There's something.
Yeah.
It's just nice to know that something's happening.
That's it. Well, I found it particularly interesting when you wrote that article. You said most of the noises ghosts make, like the kind of is because they've got toothache, but they've always had toothache.
Yeah, a lot of people are very confused about it. They hear like the wailing noises, and they think that the ghost is trying to, haunt them, creep them out, scare them out of their home. But actually, it's mostly them responding to a cavity.
Yeah.
It's just it's like, I need a filling, and I will do forevermore.
Yeah,
it's unresolved pain, and that's what traps them. I tell you what's really useful. My happiest clients are the ones who died right at the end of dental treatment, because then they're trapped forever in a state of having had their teeth fixed, and I just get to go like, you're done.
Yeah, they look great. It's a lovely smile.
They do.
Yeah, that's nice. That is nice.
I hold up a mirror. Well, it's not really a mirror. It's just a picture of a ghost, but they can't tell.
Yeah,
and
I think you're doing a great job, and there's no one out there really doing that. And I think
there isn't.
A lot of these people who have suffered for eternities with teeth issues. I mean, they're still going to suffer for eternities, but at least now they know why.
Yeah, and at least someone's sort of taking an interest, and it's just nice to feel heard sometimes.
Absolutely, well, especially as many of your friends and family have ears that are below their shoulder line, so they're probably not. hearing you at all.
Yeah, exactly. And it's there's a lot of muffled conversation in my family, and a lot of big. We get very good at signing. We get very good at yelling. We're a very yelly family.
Yeah. And then and now you're taking all this understanding of not being heard and yelling into ghost dentistry. I mean, I can see how it all links up, and all these skills come together to make you. I mean, it's. I'm just really honoured that you had the time to come on the show.
No, it's great. It's great, and honestly, nothing makes me happier than sending a ghost off the same as before, but with a pat near the head.
Yeah,
just
sure.
a gentle pat through the head, and it's sending them off on their way.
It is an incredible skill, and I hope listeners hearing this will one day join the queues. I mean, they go for miles, don't they? Sometimes those queues of people just waiting for a little pat on the head.
Yeah, and also the queues for my dentistry, and that is the one nice thing about this job. Is just there's always more customers. There's always more ghosts.
Yes,
you never run out. Yes. I tell you the one downside: they don't have money, so I haven't really worked out the way of
course.
Monetizing this whole profession, making any kind of living out of it. But
well, I suppose the ghosts don't make a living out of it either because they're dead. So
no, they kind of make a deading out of it.
Yeah, so it sort of feels kind of fair. It would feel cruel for you to make a living out of their dying.
Yeah, exactly. Or make a deading out of their living. There's no.
Yeah. So yeah. I think you're doing a good thing, and without you, the world would be patless. Ghosts would have sore teeth. It's it all adds up, and and have you been busy? Are you doing things as well as the patting and the ghosts? Has this week been pretty full on with that?
It's been a very busy week. It's been there's almost been too many things I've had to do today. It's been a confusing day. Woke up in odd sorts. Has this ever happened to you, Tiernan? Because or any of your listeners? Because I woke up today and I had 2 left arms.
And, as in, so attached to you, or just in the bed beside you, or where?
No, attached,
right.
Like fully attached.
Right.
Fully attached. I look over and I always count everything in the morning, as I'm sure we all do. We all just to make sure nothing's changed and no one's messed around with you in the night and added or removed bits. And I looked, and on my left hand side of my body, I've got one arm that I was expecting. Mm-hmm. I've got one arm that's attached to my left shoulder. It's got a hand on the end. But then I've got a second arm that's attached to my hip, and it's got a foot on the end.
Oh, that's very strange. And also really unhelpful, because when you said you had a second arm, I was thinking that's brilliant, because then you could hold 2 things on your left side, but then the foot really throws it off,
one's like kind of like an upper arm, but the other one's like a lower arm.
Oh.
That I guess I could walk on, but other than that, I don't know what I really do with it.
Well, you could. Can you walk on it? Because if you only got the one, you're going to have to hop on it.
Oh, you know what? There is one on the right as well.
Thank goodness for that. Oh, that's nice. That's nice.
I always forget because I'm right-handed.
Yeah.
So when I'm doing my checking, I point at everything with my right hand.
Sure.
But it's very hard to point at your right-hand side with your right. You're sort of bending back on yourself.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
But now I look down, I do have. Okay, so this is really strange.
Yeah.
So I've got 2 upper right arms, and they both got hands on the end, and I've got 2 lower right arms that have both got feet on the end. And
that's very confusing. I wonder if are you, because like how tadpoles, they start like with nothing and then they sprout little arms and then they sprout little legs. Like I wondered if you're in the process of becoming like a bigger creature.
Oh, maybe. Well, I know frogs. I think frogs can swim underwater, can like breathe underwater and breathe above ground. Can frogs do that?
I guess so, because otherwise they spend a lot of time underwater. It'd be really uncomfortable.
It would be.
Yeah.
So I guess a good way to check would be to see how long I can breathe underwater for.
Yeah, I mean, I think that seems sensible. Yeah.
All right, I'll be back in a second.
Okay, cool. We'll just wait. I don't know what I should do while Matt's away. I'll play some hold music. He's been away quite a while.
Tiernan, I'm not a frog.
Oh, okay. I mean, you were back quite
I've got to tell you that.
Yeah.
That went horribly. That went very badly. I just put my head under the water and I really can't breathe at all. That went very, very badly.
Wow. Okay. Well,
I've got a lot of water up my nose now.
Oh, well, I'm sorry to hear. I hope we discover what it is. It's quite an unnerving thing to find that you've got extra limbs in a morning.
It is.
Not normally.
Well, I tell you what, I don't. You say extra limbs, but I still have the same number because I woke up and I don't have any legs today.
Oh, okay. Oh, this is right. Okay. Like that. So this is sort of falling into place. Perhaps your legs and arms have swapped place. Like, have you got a foot on the end of your? You say you got a foot on the end of your arm. Have you got a hand on the end of your leg?
That's worth checking. Okay. Okay, now I can't work. Now I'm very confused because below my waist, I've got these two arms with feet on the end. But above my waist, I have got what looks a bit like a leg, but thinner.
Yeah.
And it's got a hand on the end.
You've turned over in your sleep. This is what happens. This can happen. I've read about this, where you roll over the wrong way and everything sort of...
Oh, do you think I got myself upside down?
Yeah, you've got to do like one of those backwards rolls or something, and it will sort of all click back.
Right, because I do realise now that I've got like a face on my bottom.
Yeah.
And where my bottom used to be, there is like a neck and a head. So is this...
Yeah, I mean, is there a chance... You didn't pat yourself on the head? You weren't like trying a new pat? You hit yourself on the head, you turned yourself inside out or upside down?
Well, I do a certain amount of sleep patting.
Yeah, this could be
you just find yourself, you start dreaming about patting all day, and then I don't know if you ever seen like a dog dreaming, and then they start like their legs start twitching, and they're like, oh, he's dreaming about chasing a rabbit.
Yeah.
Or sometimes you'll see like me like doing that with my hand, and if you didn't know me, you'd be like, oh, he's dreaming about basketball.
Of course.
But it's just hit, and you'd be like, oh, he's a very gentle basketball player.
Yeah.
Look at how kind of soft and just caring the way he bounces that basketball. But actually, it's a head.
Of course.
So what's going on there?
I worry, Matt, that you're taking your work into your dreams. You've patted yourself upside down. I don't know how you're going to have to pat your bottom until you turn the other way around.
Yeah. Ooh, that is a risky thing. I don't know if anyone's tried that procedure.
I'm very scared about it, and I would ask that maybe you don't do it during this show, because I'd quite like to, even though it's unnerving that you're talking to me with your bottom for this show, or where your bottom should be, even though I didn't want to say anything because I thought maybe it was a new look or something, but maybe wait until we've done this record and then you can give it a go and report back.
I will. I'll let you know. I'll let your listeners know.
Thank you. I mean, it is important that we, this show is obviously entertain, but also, it's got important warnings, and this is what the listeners. Some of them are quite small, some of them are quite big. I mean, they're all different. So I don't know. Some of them might be yaks, but generally they know that sleep patting yourself inside out could be something that happens, and now they won't be so worried about it. And so I thank you for bringing that up.
Now you just said something that confused me there, because I didn't know until now that all of your listeners are different sizes.
Oh, did you think they were all exactly the same size?
I did. I assume that's how different podcasts are categorized. Like everything is by size.
What?
So it's like this is this size of listener. I didn't realize. I think I would have spoken differently if I knew I was talking to different sized people.
I'm really sorry. I should have given you more information. Well, listen. Let me tell you what, because I might need to come back to you. I didn't know that maybe podcasts were meant to be categorized. That's something that I might need to touch on when we get to the very important bit of the show, because I'm worried now that I didn't know anything about that. I tell you what, Matt, let me give you some more information right now. Okay. This is an audio podcast, and what that means is I know the listeners listen to it mostly with their ears. Sometimes they may want to listen to it with their elbows, with their bums, with their. I don't want to judge or discriminate where they want to listen to it from. That's fine.
Of course.
Open to listening wherever your head may be,
wherever your headphones fit.
Exactly. But because it's an audio podcast, what I like to do is check. If maybe you have a favorite noise or that you can either tell us or even make for us.
I can. Well, I've got your listeners won't know this because they can't see what's going on, but I've got a cat right next to me. So this is my favorite noise. It's the noise of a cat being gently brushed.
That's quite nice,
isn't isn't it?
Yeah.
It's very soothing cat noise.
Yeah. How did the cat respond?
His ear twitched slightly, and now he's gone back to sleep.
Oh well, fair. Even you're good at the head pats, good at the cat taps. That doesn't quite work, but it's. I mean, it's definitely that was lovely. Thank you. That was very calming after, especially what we've already heard so far. You know, we may have had some listeners worried.
I thought so. I mean, some people might be quite distressed. I don't want people to wake up, worried. I don't want people to wake up worrying that they're going to end up turned upside down in their sleep.
Well, that's it. Yeah, that's it.
Because they just don't have the pat strength, most people.
No.
It took me many, many years to build up that level of pat strength where I could do myself such a mischief.
Yeah. So hopefully it's unlikely for the listeners to do this, but I don't, again, you didn't know they're all different sizes. I don't know what their pat strengths are. I'm going to stop judging them, until I've met every single one of them, which one day will happen.
So they are different sizes, your listeners, but they do at least still all have the same haircut.
Well, look, listen, I'll tell you what they are, is they're all, like, this is, they're all ages, so this show is for all ages, and it's suitable for all ages.
Hang on, each listener is all ages? So every single person listening to this is every age, from, 0 to a million years old.
Some of them are immortal and some of them are 0. So I think it's then everything in between. But we do sometimes recommend 100-year-olds don't listen to this for very complicated reasons. But every other age should be listening to this. I mean, you're really okay. I'm really excited. Look, Matt, I can't ask you the important question yet, but I feel like there's a lot to go on already. But first, I've just got to check. This is a family-friendly podcast, and for people of all possible ages, whether they are all ages at once or just individual ages at certain times. And so I just wanted to check that if there's any rude words you won't be saying.
Oh, well, I won't be saying flickbook, that's for sure.
Good for you.
Yeah. You won't be hearing that. You won't be hearing bungee cord from me either, because
no, please.
That's never
going
to escape my mouth.
No, please don't say that on this show. I'd have to cancel.
So there'll be none of that kind of business.
Yeah, good. That's great. Thank you. And I definitely won't say flickbook or bungee cord as well, just to make sure.
Oh, I've perished the thought.
This podcast would have to be put immediately into the trash. It'd be an absolute waste. Right. Well, look, listen.
It'd be a shame.
You've already. I mean, look. This is why I've asked you on this episode. I was hoping you'd be able to help me with this. I'm slightly concerned now that you've got more questions than maybe I do. But I've had this question that's been sent in by 111 Germana 44 from the United States. She doesn't say which one, just so she could be. Maybe she roams around the whole country at different times, or she's.
You know what?
Yeah.
This is weird. My best friend at school was called 111 Germana 94.
No way!
Yeah, I doubt it's the same person.
Really?
But.
Is it quite a regular? I mean, see, I'm not. You are in the United States. We're talking to you. I'm not there. Are there a lot of 111?
I am currently in America.
Is that?
I mean, not so many nowadays. It's actually quite a rare name these days. But, my generation, yeah, absolutely.
Right. So maybe it was it sort of influenced by early email addresses or typos?
Yeah, well, that's the thing, because our school already had 93 other 111 Germanas.
Yeah, so that's exactly what happens, yeah. Wow. Well, I wonder if it's the one you know or a new one. Maybe yeah, that's very curious. Well, it's interestingly, this question has been sent in by her, and I should also say it's also been sent in by Lua, who said that she's a farting moose who is 3,285 days old. She also asked the same question. So this is obviously a popular question between 111 Germana 44s and also farting moose. It's obviously a question that kind of transcends the world,
But just before we get to the question, I just want to double check: is this like a regular moose that farts, or is a farting moose a species in its own right? Like there's the kind of like the brown moose, the lesser spotted moose, the bucktooth moose, the farting moose.
I'd have thought it's a special.
And if so, does that moose fart or not?
Oh, I see. Do you think it's like one of those names that somebody gave it once because they heard like a car nearby, like the engine sight, and they thought that moose has done a big fart. This is now the farting moose.
Or maybe it was first discovered in the town of like Farting, Germany.
Yes, of course, yes, yeah.
Or maybe it was discovered by a scientist whose name was Professor Farting.
Yes.
So it's like this is the farting moose that Farting discovered.
Yes, these are very good questions. I know little about the farting. I don't know much about moose other than they're quite hilariously big. Like, I always sort of, whenever I see one, I think that is much bigger than I expected to be, and that is hilarious.
Oh, it's much bigger.
Yeah.
It's much, much bigger.
Yeah.
So, to be fair, so are horses.
Yes.
Horses, like a full-size horse is a much bigger thing. If you're not someone who grows up around horses,
Yeah.
Which would mean, like, maybe you grew up in the country, or maybe you yourself are a horse. And all of your family were horses, so this is not a surprise to you. But horses are bigger than you think they are.
Yeah.
And if you take nothing else away from this episode, that's a piece of information you should.
But then, every now and then you see a Shetland pony, and you're like, well, horses are really tiny.
Horses are tiny, and you look at them and go, I'm much bigger than a horse.
Yeah.
And then you see jockeys on TV in a horse race, and you think, how little must they be? Because I'm bigger than most horses, and he's much smaller than the horse.
Yeah.
So that person must be tiny.
Yeah, it really throws you off the kind of horse perspective. I mean, what I've always wondered, because you get Shetland ponies that are quite small, and then you get like big Shire horses that are quite big. You kind of need, like, if you were to sort of put them together, you know those table sets you can get where there's like a small table, then a bigger table, and they all slot together. I assumed horses were made like that, but I don't know where the middle one is.
Like stacking horses that you can put in the...
Stacking
So you could keep your horses of different sizes all in the same living room in the corner.
Just neatly,
and
neatly
then when you're having...
until there's guests coming around,
Yeah. When it's time to entertain and you need to put some, like... You need to put some, like, crisps and dips and things on some horses around your living room.
Yeah, that's exactly...
You bring them all out.
Yeah. It's exactly it, and because it's important. You don't want your horses out and about all the time because they, it clutters their space. They start eating your furniture. There's a lot of issues. Horse poo, obviously. So but I wondered. I don't know where the middle. I suppose normal horses would probably go just under Shire horses, but then there's still a big gap between them and Shetland ponies. Is it a pommel horse? Does a pommel horse go there?
Like the gymnastics equipment?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the others might be a bit insulted if you put a pommel horse in between the actual living horses, because they'd be like, "Who's this guy staying still all day with handles on him?"
Yeah. Well, what about I see what you mean. What about the clothes horse? Because the clothes horse for me, I always worry is the skeleton of a clothes horse, because it's always just sort of quite, skinny.
Yeah, until you put clothes on it, and then it's kind of
it's haunting. Yeah.
Then it looks a bit like a sort of skeleton pirate.
Yeah, yeah. Would that upset a Shetland pony if you put a Shetland pony under a clothes horse and then a big Shire horse over the clothes horse?
Well, I think if you showed a clothes horse to any other kind of horse, they'd probably be a bit insulted about the name. They'd probably go like, "That looks nothing like me."
Yeah, yeah.
Like if someone does a bad portrait of you and you're like, "Well, is that what you think my face is?"
Yeah.
You think a horse looks like that? Just a bit of plastic mesh.
Yeah.
With some pegs.
Yeah, I would.
And a wet T-shirt draped across it.
Yeah, it'd be sort of like. I'm trying to think what the equivalent of like a human, if you had a sort of clothes human and it was just a couple of pencils.
Yeah.
Or something.
Imagine if someone said, "Look at this clothes Tiernan that I've got for putting my wet knickers on."
Yeah, and it was just like a bit.
Put some wet pants and socks on your face.
Yeah.
Yeah, and go, that looks like you, that is.
Yeah, I'd be quite honoured though that people...
My soaking wet underwear and vests.
That people found a use for me. Thought I was useful enough.
Pair of damp jeans,
clothes.
Just draped over. Look at that. That's my clothes tin, and that is. But you'd be disgusted.
Well, you say that, but I'm not good at drying clothes. Like if I wear on those instances where I've been caught out by,
you're not good at personally drying clothes.
I like my clothes don't dry very well on me if I've been caught in it. So I think you'd need a clothes tin rather than
because the trouble is you don't really have enough holes in you for the air to blow through.
That's right. Yeah, that's right. So
you've got one hole that the air blows through.
Yeah, you say that, but I've never actually farted. I was just born in farting Germany. So
is that why people call you farting Tiernan?
That's why they call me farting Tiernan. Yeah. So it's
just from the town of farting.
Yeah. So it's a common mistake actually, and it's quite embarrassing. But I'm glad we could clear it up on the show officially. Well, look, listen, we've gone on a horse tangent, and I'm aware that we 111 Germana 44 and Lua the farting moose, who's 3,285 days old. They have asked, right, and Matt, I think you're the expert for this. You are the expert for this. I know this, even though I'm not sure you know what it is that we're going to be discussing. But the question is, how do you? And they've put Germana's put a U as in just a U shape, so not a. She's not spelt you. She's how do you create a podcast?
Open a bottle of ketchup with a sword. Okay,
right,
sorry,
no,
that wasn't what I thought.
No, but I wish they'd I wish they'd asked that, but they haven't asked that, so we'll never know now. We'll never know. I'm afraid you can't ever reveal that. But they have asked, how do you create a podcast? How
do you create a podcast? Well, I have a podcast of my own, and I'll tell you, which, to be honest, isn't a podcast that children of all ages should listen to.
Oh.
But I'll tell you how I started it, how I created it, is I got a little podcast seed.
Oh, yeah.
And you could just buy them from a podcast shop, just any podcast shop. You know, I didn't want to buy a fully grown one because I wanted to make it my own. And I just planted it in a little tub of earth, and I watered it every day. And a few weeks later, you see the first little spring shoots of podcasts. And that's important. You got to keep it in sunlight, but not too much sunlight.
Okay.
Because too much sunlight and it can burn it.
Right. Okay. So not like right in the window. You don't want to put it right in the windowsill, or
Yeah, I'm just gonna give it a little extra sound effect now because the cat is grooming himself. I don't know if you can hear him. He's licking his tail right now. Is
it grooming himself, or is he having a little snack?
He's having a little snack on the dirt on his tail.
Oh, right. Oh, that's not very nice.
Yeah, because that's the thing about cats. They clean themselves entirely with their tongue.
Yeah, I always thought that would only be good if you'd like rolled around in crisps for ages.
And you know what? I tried that.
Yeah.
But it turns out there's only so many parts of me that I can lick.
Yeah.
Like I don't know if you know this, but you can't lick your own elbow. It's impossible to lick your elbow.
Yeah. Which is it? But if you thought about passing,
and so I was like,
so that it becomes closer to your head.
Oh, now there's a thought, because most people can't lick your elbow, and if you try and roll around in crisps and then try and lick yourself clean, what's going to happen is you're still going to have like a crispy elbow.
Yeah.
And people will be like, "Why have you got crisps on your elbow?" And you'll have to say, "Well, my tongue just wouldn't reach there."
Yeah. Yeah.
And that just opens the door to a whole load more questions, because they say that, you know what, that offers more questions than answers, really.
Yeah.
I'm less clear about your life than I was a few minutes ago.
And also, you're going to crunch everywhere you go, so there's no sneaking up on people.
That's very true.
Yeah.
You can't go into a cinema because they'll be like, you're not allowed to bring your own snacks.
Yeah, and also, you're in America, so they wouldn't even know what crisps are. You'd have to say...
They'd say you can't come into the movie theater.
Yeah.
You got your own chips.
Yeah, and then you're like, I don't know what you're talking about. It's all... It's all sorts of mayhem.
I mean, it'd be disaster. So that's just one of the reasons I just refuse to clean myself like a cat.
Yes, I think very wise. Very wise. Plus, you've also just had a bath when testing out if you're a frog, so you don't need to.
That's true, yeah. Well, I mean, not a full body bath, but like the inside of my nose is very clean now.
Well, and it shows. It really sparkles. It's lovely. So I know
Thank you.
Can't see, but it's really sparkly right now. So you were just saying about your podcast. You leave it on in the sunlight, and then it sort of blossoms into a podcast over time. And
yeah, but the thing is, if a podcast is successful, it gets bigger and bigger, and it grows. And at a certain point, you have to transfer it into a bigger pot,
right?
Because the roots of the podcast can only spread so much in a smaller pot, and that limits how much it'll grow. And if you really want to have a lot of listeners, then you're going to have to eventually transfer it to a larger container.
Right. That's... Yeah, it sounds like a lot of effort, really, doesn't it? I mean, I don't know if I'd want to do one.
Well, no, yeah, I wouldn't recommend you do a podcast. I don't think you've really got what it takes. But
no.
I would say, for your listeners...
Yeah.
For the listeners of your podcast, they might want to consider this, but... I would say ask a grown-up to help.
Sure. And
ask a grown-up to help. And I tell you the best way to ask a grown-up to help, because a grown-up is actually quite a big container. So when it comes time to transfer the podcast to a bigger container, you just be like, Mom, Dad, Aunt, Uncle, friend, teacher, whatever, right? You just go like, can you just make this shape for me? And what you do is you ask them to touch their fingertips together and keep their elbows out. It'll be like a nice big circle.
Yeah.
And then you just quickly put your podcast in there, fill the gap with mud.
Right. And then they have to become the pot and carry it for the rest of their lives.
until it's time to transfer it to an even bigger person.
Right. I mean, that's quite an ask, isn't it? It's quite an ask for sort of, and I'm aware that like you've put your friends and family through quite a lot already. You're then asking them to hold your podcast.
Yeah. Well, the good thing about them, in some cases, is the ones whose heads are far enough down, there's actually already quite a nice little indentation. You can just put it straight in the top.
Lovely. You've really... Well, right, this makes sense as to why you do one, when you've already got that advantage. Yeah, for the rest of us, it's...
So it's nice. Tricky. And also, then you look at people and, then they can wear a hat, because they can just put it on the top of the podcast.
Yeah.
On its leaves.
And do these... I mean, I've got a question about these podcasts. Do they ever flower so that other podcasts sort of grow and then you have to, I don't know, they fall off
you can take little
autumn or...
Yeah, you can take clippings for sure. You can take little clippings and you can replant them. And then you get like a little podcast that's the same as the original one, but then you can give it as a gift to your friends and family.
That's nice. That's nice, even though they probably don't want it because they've already been carrying the previous podcast and they had their heads squished. Yeah.
I will tell you, you've got to fertilize it.
Right.
You've got to give it fertilizer. And this is a bit disgusting. So I hope your listeners are okay with this, but the best fertilizer is always animal poo.
Right.
And so I do highly recommend asking your friends and family and all the grown-ups nicely before you start putting that on them.
Yes. Yeah, it's tricky. Yeah. It's hard, doesn't it? Because people always get very angry with like when I was younger, I had a cat, and my parents would get very angry if the cat pooed in the plant. But actually, that cat was like making that plant really like strong.
Yeah.
So
how did they react if you ever pooed in the plant?
Well, they were they didn't really. I was quite good at hiding the poo. I see, unlike the cats, I'd cover it up or I'd blame it on the cat.
Right.
So they weren't aware of, sometimes question why there was sweet corn in the plant and things like that, but it wasn't, I got away with it. So yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, that makes sense.
Yeah. But it is, I do think that we sort of, people get angry at, it's the same with dogs in parks. You have to bag their poo up and it's like, but that dog's helping the park grow. So really, we should be letting animals poo everywhere, and then be great.
And that dog's probably thinking, like, why is that man stealing my poo?
Yeah.
I put it there for a reason.
Yeah, to grow a tree or a podcast, and then you think we can have parks full of podcasts.
Now he's just putting it in a plastic bag and then throwing it in a bin.
Yeah, it's just very strange, isn't it?
Ah,
very strange.
What a weirdo.
Really weird. Really weird.
Probably looking at you thinking, I don't put your poos in my bags.
Yeah.
They're thinking.
But they should, and maybe that's how they could get their own back.
Yeah. Any dogs that are listening to this show right now, next time you see your owners having a poo, get in there quickly with a plastic bag it up and throw it in a bin, see how they like it.
Yeah, I think that's a great message to all the dogs that do listen, definitely do listen to this show. Wow, and I wanted to, so the podcast... That's really solid advice. They just have to. It's quite a long process, but obviously, if they really want to get into it, that is what they can do. And I suppose I need to just question that Jemana did put you as in the letter. How do you, the letter U, create a podcast? Is it different if a letter wants to create a podcast?
Oh, that's a very good point.
Or it might be a horseshoe. I mean, maybe she's directing this at the horses we've previously spoken about. I'm not entirely sure what.
Well, how would a horseshoe create a podcast? I mean, and what would even a horseshoe... I mean, a horseshoe is lucky. So that's something I'd like to hear about. If a horseshoe is inherently lucky, and I'd listen to anyone who's that lucky.
Yeah.
Do a show.
Yeah, lots of good advice. Yeah, lots of good advice.
Do you get good advice from four-leaf clovers?
Yeah.
From rabbit's feet?
Yeah. Is it rainbows? No, they're not lucky, are they? They're just sort of there. But they're... Yeah,
they're just they're just hanging about.
Yeah, black cats, they could be unlucky or lucky, can't they? It sort of depends on the day and how they're feeling.
Yeah, and how many horseshoes they've got on them.
Yes, that's also it. Yeah, how many four-leaf clovers they've got stuck to their tail, and yeah. Well, yeah, that's curious. I don't want to read into this too much. Maybe Jemana did just mean how do you create a podcast? I don't know, but I don't want to ignore the possibility.
No, we shouldn't leave any stone unturned.
Well, exactly. Which is also a good topic for a podcast, I think. Yeah,
and for a horseshoe.
Yeah, really good. Really good.
You know, if you're listening to, if you're a horseshoe cast, then you're like, well, how do I turn over stones?
So I'm just a horseshoe.
You know, do I go in like edge first, or do like?
Yeah, I mean, I'd advise that they go on the foot of a horse. A foot of a horse,
right? And then the horse would do most of the stone turning.
Skinny horse arm. What is it? Where do they go? The horseshoes.
Well, let me think, because most shoes go on a foot, but horses don't have feet.
Yeah. Yeah, it's really...
Wow, have people been making horseshoes for no reason?
I mean, I feel like there's a lot of wasted time that's happened in on the planet, taking cat poo out of plants and putting dog poo in bags and putting shoes on horses' feet that when there aren't any. It's, you know, I regularly with this show and with life, I just sort of think, well, maybe we've all been really wasting our time. You know,
I mean, maybe there's no real way to tell, is there?
No,
unless because we could sit down and calculate how much time we've been wasting, but then there is always the risk that will turn out to be a big waste of time.
Yeah, that's hard, actually, isn't it? But that also, again, sounds like quite a good podcast subject. You know, I'm just thinking if Jemana 44 needs subjects, we've got 2 for already. We've got the horseshoe lucky subject, but she would have to be a horseshoe to do that properly. And then we've got the counting.
Yeah.
So maybe she could just count time. See how much time has been wasted.
Because if you try and do a horseshoe podcast and you're not a horseshoe yourself,
get very upset. Horses will get very
they'll
upset.
get very upset because horseshoes will be listening to that and be like, well, what does this person know?
That's it. Yeah.
Know anything about my life? You're talking from a position of authority. You've never been on a horse, on whatever part of them that you're meant to go on.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, probably doesn't even know.
No.
Horseshoes listening at home going, I know where a horseshoe goes. Listen to these idiots.
Yeah. Yeah. Which, I mean, you know, I don't think about it too much, but you could hang a horseshoe on a clothes horse really easily. So you could put loads of them on there.
Oh, you could, yeah. You want to start on the lower rungs.
Yeah.
Just for stability.
Yeah, well, yeah, of course. It's just something to think about. Well, look, listen, Matt, there's been very useful advice about the podcast, and I just, you know, we gave Jemana a couple of subjects. Is there any other tips that you'd give her about what or Lua the farting moose about what you could make how best to discover what you should make a podcast about? Then how did you find out what to make a podcast about?
Well, you know, I would say the best thing to do probably is to do a podcast about every different subject and then see which one people like.
Right, sure.
So you do one podcast about each thing. Yeah, so think about all the different things you could do it about and put out one of each and then see which one takes off.
That's a really good idea. Well, I mean, I knew I should have asked you. I mean, it's interesting, though, that you did think earlier that people who listen to podcasts are all the same. So is that just something that you've come across with your... do people that listen to your podcast, are they all exactly the same size and have the same haircut?
Well, I've always assumed so, but now you're making me doubt myself.
Oh, I'm sorry. I only know... I mean, saying that, actually, you know, listeners often send in their ages. They say, like, you know, like Lewis, 3,285 days old. They don't often send in their height. So there is every chance that the farting moose is exactly the same height and size as 111 Jemana 44 from the United States.
I presume I would have thought all of them are about 3 centimeters tall and have a mohawk.
Sure. That sounds about right.
I mean, that's what I was assuming.
Yeah.
That feels right.
It feels really right. And, you know, I think that a lot of this podcast says it speaks to people of that size and haircut. And, you know, and actually I'm quite pleased with that. I mean, if I did a podcast, I don't think I know... I don't think I could do it.
Well, I wouldn't recommend you do a podcast because I just don't think you have the chops. But if you were to do that, which you shouldn't,
yes,
that's
that
probably
would be listens. Yeah. Wow. Well, thank you so much, Matt, for your expertise, and again, I appreciate you taking time out of your incredibly busy life of head patting and ghost dentistry.
Anytime.
Yeah, and have you got a busy day ahead?
Well. I mean, not really. I'm not going to do very much. I mean, I have to... I can't go into it too much, but, you know, there's a battle to save Christmas.
Oh, sure.
You know, there's some people who've been trying to fight Santa, and, you know, so I've got to defend that. But there's just nothing much, just a few little things. But
sure. Great.
But
well, it's nice to know you've got a quiet one ahead anyway. So
yeah,
lovely. Well, thank you again for your time, and any more podcast questions, I will direct them your way. If anyone is listening who isn't of the age that's not suitable for listening to your podcast, but is of the age that's suitable, I will tell them to find it some wherever it's planted.
You should.
Thanks. Take care.
Thank you. Bye.
I always get my 5 a day!
Thanks so much to Matt Kirshen for those brilliant answers and, of course, important advice about patting people on the head if that is something you'd like to be an expert at. And I do advise it, although obviously, don't steal his work. He is there first. Don't tread on his toes. Or I guess he might pat you on the head, although you'd be taller than him if you're on it. Anyway, I hope Lua and 111 Jemana 44 that you are happy with your answers, and if not, please do send in your complaints, as I have to eat 5 complaints in about 3.5 weeks' time. If you have questions you'd like a comedian to answer, then get your blathering ninny hammers, sorry, grown-ups, I keep doing that, to send them into podcast@comedyclubforkids.co.uk, and they'll be answered in a future episode. That's as in one, like in a few weeks' time, rather than one that's in the future with robots and stuff. You can also send in jokes, anything you want us to know or have read out on the show, and of course your amazing, funniest or weirdest facts if you're in the UK and you would like to be entered into the Britannica magazine competition. Also, don't forget to check out our live shows at comedyclubforkids.co.uk, and of course all of our t-shirts and our book at comedyclubforkids.store, which now I believe has slightly more affordable things because they're sent by an owl in a beautiful pea green boat, possibly. I don't know. I don't really understand it, but do get your blathering ninny hammers, sorry, grown-ups, to have a look on that site with you. Oh, I really shouldn't be allowed to run a shop. I also don't really have time to run a shop because I'm too busy eating watermelons. I've eaten 4 now. I ate the 4th while you were listening to that with Matt Kirshen, and now it's time for number 5. And I'm just wondering, maybe I should try and eat this one in a different way to make it more interesting for myself. Maybe I can just eat it all in one go. Like, I know they look big, but I've just got to open my mouth really wide. Huh? Hey, guy, anyone? Better sit down with a glass of water. Yeah, that wasn't too bad. I do feel very full now and not good at all. So I don't think it's 5 watermelons a day. I don't think that's particularly good for you. I'll cross that off the list. Oh dear, on to light aircraft carriers tomorrow then. That's going to be tricky. I might take some sauce to help go with those. Maybe a ground mustard for the runway. I'll let you know. Anyway, good luck with your 5 a day and see you in next week's podcast. Bye! You have been listening to
Comedy Club for Kids presents
Radio Nonsense! Radio Nonsense! Radio Nonsense! Radio Nonsense! Radio Nonsense! It's the end.